We discuss a landmark court ruling that impacts the financial priorities of the City of Johannesburg. Belinda Kayser-Echeozonjoku, the Democratic Alliance's Johannesburg caucus leader, led the charge against the controversial VIP protection policy. This judgment, which challenges the use of public funds for personal protection allowances far exceeding legal limits, has significant implications for governance and service delivery in Johannesburg. Councillor Belinda, thank you so much for joining us. Now, what does this ruling mean for the residents of Johannesburg and their access to basic services?
Good afternoon, Hugo, and good afternoon to the viewers. Well, it means that the rule of law has won once again. I'm sure you would have known that we had initially raised these concerns in council. People are sitting without, safety at home. There are concerns of safety and security and by law enforcement, and yet the current executive are sitting with VIP protection, blue lights, VIP, while residents are not getting this. So this is a win for the residents of Johannesburg and for the rule of law and for people to be held accountable, because this is just a start, because we are probing some more questions as well.
I'd imagine that one of the questions that you are asking is just what is the value or the cost to the taxpayer for these blue lights and VIP protection. The judge did speak that the interject, if you will, was devoid of those numbers. Do you have an idea of what the cost to the taxpayer has been?
Well, basically, the cost to tax is a question that was asked by one of the councillors who's now an MPL, at the time, was approximately 3 million rand per month to the taxpayer. And that for us is just simply unacceptable. We're sitting with a water crisis for other service delivery related matters. This is just one of that, the monthly cost. We are still even have to determine how much the city opposing an unlawful decision has to cost the taxpayer or the ratepayer. So this for us is really unacceptable, that the city is willing to oppose something that is unlawful, unconstitutional, and invalid, despite us raising this inside the council chambers through the Section 79 and still causing additional money to go to court for something that is as irregular as this.
And why do you believe the City of Council disregarded the warnings from COCTA, especially about this policy's legality?
I think the city would be able to would be in a better position to respond to that. But our initial reaction is that politicians cannot regard themselves more important than the residents of Johannesburg. And we've consistently seen in the City of Johannesburg Council, when the DA raise concerns that are valid, they are opposing it just for the sake of opposing it. They ridicule issues raised by the residents and play the race card. So I can only assume that the reason why this was even opposed was because it comes from the DA and because the DA council has raised this, one, and two, because the current executive feel that they are more important than the residents of Johannesburg, and we are completely opposed to that. The money should never be spent on politicians for VIP protection specifically, rather than getting residents the services that should be normal in the City of Johannesburg. Everything's collapsing, as you know. So I can only assume that it's because the current executive feel that they are more important than the residents of Johannesburg.
How concerned are you, Councillor Belinda, that SAPS threat assessments were not carried out before these VIP units were hired or engaged?
Okay, there's multiple occasions, where we had requested for these through the Section 79. Also, the city had the opportunity to even make a note inside the report that came to council to say that threat risk assessment by SAPS has been done. The judge had been extremely fair because the city had also been asked, the attorneys have been asked to give, the proof and all those kind of things by the 22nd of November after the case was heard the first time on the 15th of November. The judge gave them the opportunity to bring all those proofs, also an indication of how long it will take to get the threat risk analysis to be done to the court and to the judge. They have failed to do that. They've also not even responded on time. They had more than 1 year to provide that information to the Section 79 and to the councillors who had requests for this information. None of these have been provided. And also the letter that we have seen in the court documents that was submitted by the city, the speaker at the time had just said that they are working on it and they are getting this done. And this is like a year ago. So clearly they have not had this done. We've also been very accommodating as the DA in this case, asking that they should provide for the proof that it was in fact requested. That was also not forthcoming. So we're saying we're confident that they probably never, if they were not able to provide it in court, then where are these threat risk analysis that was done? And also where are the requests for the threat risk analysis to be done?
Councillor Belinda, in a country that is awash with corruption, particularly in government or city councils and municipalities and so on, do you suspect that part of this reason may have been because of some form of corruption that might be occurring?
Definitely. For us, anything in the city of Johannesburg, once you go outside of something that is in the Constitution, you are reminded that in council, by councillors, by fellow councillors, that something is unconstitutional and irregular, and you still continue it, we can only assume that there's some sort of collusion or corruption involved, because if not the case, they should have been able to provide the proof of what had been done, what they could not get responses from, where are the people involved, and they could not provide that. So we can only assume that there is possible or alleged, if I can put it that way, collusion or corruption when it comes to this VIP protection that is currently obviously deemed unlawful, unconstitutional, and invalid.
A final question. There have obviously been instances in the past few months, as you alluded to, where there has been no cooperation from the City of Johannesburg to deal with the issues and the questions that you've raised. Now, how will the DA ensure that the city complies with the judgment moving forward?
One of the concerns, obviously, we are monitoring. First, we'll ask the same questions through the Section 79 committee. And we will also raise these issues with the other spheres of government, like caucus, province, and national, which we do when we don't get these answers. But one other angle that we have also considered and we are discussing as a caucus at the moment in the City of Johannesburg Council is professional negligence, because surely the officials in the city should have advised the executive some of the implications and the cost this could raise to the taxpayer. So we are exploring as well whether there were negligence from some of the officials who had advised the city to oppose an unconstitutional, unlawful, and invalid decision. And this also applies to the previous case that the DA has won with costs, the irregular and unlawful appointment of the city manager. We are looking at these, and we will raise it, obviously, to the Auditor General in terms of the cost implications, whether there was fruitless, wasteful expenditure with regards to this, and also, obviously, with National Treasury, which we will be taking up as well, because there must be accountability for residents of Johannesburg money being used for unlawful, unconstitutional decisions. And possibly we know about the landmark judgment that has been in the Nelson Mandela Bay municipality, where officials were held accountable. So we are exploring all those options at the moment. Obviously, it's still early in the new year. As soon as we all back, we will be taking this much more serious to be able to see that people are held accountable. And if they have to pay the money back, we will also be asking for these type of accountability from the relevant spheres of government.
Belinda Kayser-Echeozonjoku, the Democratic Alliance's Johannesburg caucus leader, who led the charge against that controversial VIP protection policy, which has now been, as of today, been declared unconstitutional.